In this episode, we talk about work-life balance, or as I like to call it, work-life chemistry, because one really interacts with the other, for good or bad. How much of a tech job would encroach on your personal life? How much of your personal life should seep into your work duties? We'll discuss all that. Cynthia, welcome to No Quotas Allowed.
Thank you for having me.
My pleasure, my pleasure. So today we are going to talk about work-life balance. Sometimes you see them abbreviated as WLB, work-life balance, and we'll dive into it. But before we do, please tell everybody who you are and where you're from and what do you do.
Okay, my name is Cynthia, and I am actually an immigrant from China, and I have been living in the United States for about 12 years, and I have 2 kids. So what I do is that I do life insurance with living benefits and also annuities, because I think it's very, very important that people should learn more about the future finances, and I really enjoy doing it. Yeah, so I have been living in Maple Valley, Seattle area for like 8 years, and falling in love with it every day. Yeah.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Cool. Shall we get into the topic of the day? Are you ready?
Yes, definitely.
Awesome. I have to say that the work-life balance is a concept that was new to me when I came to work for Microsoft years and years ago. Prior to that, no one talked about work-life balance. When I was a graduate student, no one asked me, "Oh, are you managing your work-life balance as a graduate student?" I used to be a flight attendant for Singapore Airlines. No one asked me, "Oh, how is your work-life balance?" No one cared. Everybody just. But all of a sudden, I'm plunged into this world where your mental health and your professional health and everything is very important.
Yeah.
So, and after spending a lot of time in the tech industry, I realized that it is quite important because it can make or break you, right? So, and a lot of people go into the industry without being mindful of what's going on, and they realize that they're burning out, they're too tired, they don't have time for family, or they are neglecting work. It could be the other way around as well. So today I want to address that, talk about it from my perspective. Right? And to me, work-life balance is what you want to attain to be a happier you. You just want to be happy, right? At the end of the day, that's the easy part, right? Everybody wants to be at their best psyche and mood and health and all that. So everybody, the end result is to be happier. However, happiness is subjective, right? To one person who is young in a career, happiness is like one day becoming VP. Another person who has a family, the happiness could be like, being able to afford a vacation, a big vacation, every year or something like that, or a big boat or a big house, So happiness is that subjective part. So I guess work-life balance is really would have to be adjusted person to person depending on what you want, right? And I feel like there are factors in our life that is controllable, and then there's those that's not controllable, out of our control. And so I would love to walk through them, especially through the lens of a person with a technical job, a coder, or someone who does what I do in managing products and stuff like that, and go through each of them and share what I have seen and some of my opinions on it.
Yeah.
Cool. The one thing that came to my mind was a picture that I saw. Not a picture, it's not a meme. It's one of those motivational images, that people share on the web. I'm not sure how true it is, but let me see if I can share it with you right about here. Can you see my screen?
Yes.
Supposedly there's a nurse that is taking care of elderly, folks in the hospice. And so these are the top 5 things that people would regret now that they're at the end of their life. So the first one is, I wish I had the courage to live a life true to myself and not what others expect of me. And the reason why I bring this up is because a lot of them, and maybe 4 out of 5, has a lot to do with work-life balance, I feel. Especially number 2, I wish I hadn't worked so hard. 3, I wish I had the courage to express my feelings. That one maybe not so much. Number 4, I wish I'd stay in touch with my friends. That's the life balance part, right? And then 5, I wish I had let myself be happier. So I feel like this is so relatable to the topic of today, right? None of the 5, in fact, you can find longer lists where they have like 10. None of them said, I wish I had made it to VP, It's all about like, end of a life, what is valuable and meaningful, the people, the experience. And so I see work-life balance in that lens, if that makes sense. So now the first thing I truly feel is controlling your work-life balance is you. It's us, our own personality, right? And software engineers tend to be, it's a different breed. Technical people, technical jobs sometimes can have a different, more engineers are introverted than extroverted, right? You don't find them at parties talking and drinking and having a grand old time. They like to be, they like their time to concentrate and work on their job, and they crank it out. So they tend to be more introverted than extroverted. I've met friends who are back at Microsoft where they are very disciplined about time. Like, for example, past 5 o'clock, you can call them and talk about, the kids' soccer camp. You can talk about the latest movie, but you cannot mention work. Like past 5 p.m. One of my friends, I called him at 8 and I didn't know he felt that way. And I say, hey, blah, 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 blah. And he I think he texted me back. He said, hey, Steve, oh, wait, that's work. And at first I thought, like, what's wrong with you, right? Then I realized that he's not doing anything wrong. He's setting boundaries, right? And some people have that boundary, like after 5, no shop, right? No shop talk, whatever. Some people don't. So it's a principle thing, and I respect him for that today. And do you feel that way when your colleague calls you at 8 p.m. and say, hey, Cynthia, where's the Excel file that we looked at yesterday? How would you feel?
I think it's what we work on, so I feel like work and life balance basically is when you don't like your job. When you don't like it. But when people, they do love what they their job. Like, for example, I feel like, when younger, you are more passionate about what you do, like you solve that code, like you make that coding work, and then you're so from bottom of your heart, you're happy, right? That's not called work, that's
true.
Although, so what's why we talk about life and work balance is because we don't like our work for whatever reason.
There is some truth to that.
Yes.
100%.
Yes. So if we work for something that is we truly passionate about, right? Then you will not mind talking about it even in mid of night. That's what I think.
True.
Yeah.
Funny you mentioned like when you are in your career, because that was my next point here. Like your age roughly correlate to where you are in your career, and that determines a lot about how much it will bug you if someone calls you or texts you or message you at 9 p.m. asking about that form or that data or that whatever. So that is very, very true. When you're younger, you're hungrier, you have more energy, and you feel less offended, right? But if you are trying to cook dinner at 7 p.m., washing dishes, the dog needs to go out and the other one is barking, and then someone calls you and say, "Hey, where's the Excel file?" You know, and that could bug you a lot.
Yeah.
I remember years ago, I think it was when Madeline was born. Obviously Jimmy just got back from the hospital, and Madeline was 3 days old. So we were still, she's a super little baby. And I kept getting text messages on my phone. And I've taken paternity leave from work because I don't want to be bothered. I need to take care of my wife and my new daughter. And my manager kept texting me nonstop. And he turns out that they are going to have a QBR, a quarterly business review, like a day or two from that day. And he wanted me to go in and fill in a few lines in Excel for my piece of the work of the team. And I remember that bugging me for so long because I ended up doing it. I had Madeline in one hand, I had my laptop on the other hand, and I'm like, I'll do it. It's very important. But and so I remember carrying Madeline and typing with the other hand. And I look back at that moment and I'm like, did I do the right thing? Because I got very bitter about that experience. But it was me, right? I mean, I could have said, sorry, no, I took leave. You guys should know better. I still look back at that and wonder, what would I have done? But I guess it was a principle thing, right? Should I have stood my ground and say, nope, I'll just ignore the text, right? But then I was afraid to deal with the consequences after I get back from my leave. So that was still in my mind. Maybe I'm still mad about it. So the next point is about you as an individual. Are you single? Are you married? Are you, do you have family? That matters a lot, right? And you and I know once you have a family, you have another job. You have another full-time job.
Yes.
You need to prepare for the kids, make sure they're okay. If the spouse is okay, you guys are going out for dinner. There's a choir. There's a soccer practice. When you start to have a family, things creep up, and then work-life balance become like super critical.
Yeah.
The other thing I thought of that influence an individual to work-life balance is culture. And it's funny because you and I come from a Chinese background, right? Where it's like work, and when you're done, work some more. Work hard, right? So I being Asian, I'm from Singapore, and being here in the US like you, I get to see both sides, right? How my parents and my culture and my country drove us, to excellence, and then living here in the US and how the pace is not as scary. So I think culturally that there is a factor there. And I have a lot of friends who work at Chinese-based companies who would tell me that comparing their current company as Chinese-based to a US-based company, let's say Facebook and TikTok, ByteDance, that there's a very noticeable difference about work culture and how much is expected of them. That there is 3 numbers that they talk about, 669. Have you heard of, is that a common thing in China, 669?
Yeah.
Let me, I hope I got it right. 669 stands for 6 days a week from 6 a.m. to 9 p.m. Yeah. Is that a common thing that people in China talk about? Like that's your work hours? Yeah. That's a long ass day.
That's sadly, I feel like it's being brought here.
You think so?
Little by little. Yeah, especially in Seattle, in Washington area.
Yeah.
Yeah, because of the, why, like you said, why we, as much as we hated with a newborn baby, you want me to come in, as much as I hated, I still decided to do it. It's because we're afraid of the consequences, like you talked about, right? So the competition is that harsh right now.
Yeah. It's a different ball game now, for sure. Not in our favor. Yes. Not in our favor. Yeah.
That's not. I actually heard recently. I heard that even internship for those kids, they are depressed.
Oh dear. Oh
Yes.
boy.
It's like no matter how hard I work, and no matter how much I do, I still don't get I still not good enough.
Yeah, that's rough. Oof, that is rough. Yeah, I have some opinions later at the end of the show. I will share some opinions, more opinions, and then the other thing that affects at an individual level is like your health and your mental health.
Yes.
And then for people who have to take care of it a little bit more than others, I think if work is too demanding, or if you let work become too demanding, it can really ruin your day.
Yes.
And then personal responsibilities as well. A lot of my friends obviously are around my age, and at our age, and youngsters don't get it yet. Like the 20-something don't get it yet, but by the time they reach around my age, you start to get into that bracket where your parents start to need more attention and more help. Like my mom goes for dialysis, right, 3 times a week, but she's in Singapore and the government takes care of her very well. It's fairly easy there. But I have a lot of friends who parents are getting older. They need to be driven to medical checkups. They need to they need care, right? And as a child, you have those responsibilities. And younger folks who are joining the industry don't realize it yet. But then later on in the career, they realize that, grandma has to go get a hip surgery, So those things that creep up. So I'm sure there are more things that affect us individually, and that I think is one of the set of factors that can be controlled to a certain extent, And then there are things that are sort of in between, like you can control them sometimes, sometimes you cannot, and that's the nature of the job itself, right? If you've land yourself into a job, into a tech role that is very demanding, then maybe that's not for you because of the following reasons: because you are caring for your ailing, grandma or whatever, right? And different types of technical jobs have different degrees of how demanding and how much time they expect from you. So I'm going to go through some of that I can think of. The first one will be someone who works on contract or a vendor. And those, I think, will have the most flexibility. So if you want to be in the tech industry, but you don't want to have a lot of time suck, from work, contract vendor is pretty good because you are working by the hour pretty much. You clock 8 hours, you bill the company for 8 hours, and then you stop until the next day, right? Mm-hmm. And so then once that is done, you are free to do stuff, right? No one's going to blame you for not responding to an email at 8 p.m. or something like that. Typically. So those have the most flexibility, I feel. The other type of job that I should call out that is very different than others are the ones that are operational. These are the ones that require them to pay attention to servers, for example, or they have to be on site. They have to make sure that the machine is running, that out of 10 machine, 1 went down, then they have to be there to swap out the defective machine, or the website is down, they have to quickly fix it. So those have a higher bar for being there and being present. In fact, there is a term called pager duty in tech industry, where you are literally have a pager where if there's an incident, if there's a problem, the system will page you, and you have to get on your computer and address the issue right away. It could be 2 a.m. It could be 2 p.m. Could be a Sunday. Could be a holiday. You have to respond to it because the business depends on you. And so what most software engineers, junior ones, do not realize is that they are responsible for that. And what they'll do is they will they'll have a schedule of people who will be on call, they call it. And then anything happens during that time, they are the first to respond to an incident. When something went wrong, when there's a data breach, when someone hacked, when website goes down, there's always people from the company who are on the clock, round the clock, to respond. and that can get to you a little bit if you like your evening time, watching Netflix, so because you're gonna get that call from from the system. So operational roles are a bit more rigid, harder to change. The other folks are in research, who are in research and development, have a bit more flexibility, I would say, right? They don't have to code that specific thing between 9 and 5. In fact, a lot of my friends that I know who are coders, they may drag their feet until lunchtime, have lunch, go for a walk, and then at 1 o'clock they cram, and they just code like hell. And then at 5 o'clock they deliver whatever they say they would deliver in the full day, and they're very good at that. They the friends who cram in the last minute for exams and then they get A's. Those are like software engineers, right? If they say I need, there's a joke when I was at Microsoft. They say that every time you ask an engineer, how long will it take to do this? My customer is asking for that. How long will it take? The answer is almost 2 weeks. They always say 2 weeks, but in reality, it may just take them like maybe 3 hours of straight up coding. But by telling you 2 weeks, then they can do it right away, that night, in the middle of the night because they can't sleep, or they can do it in the last minute, or they can spread it out. Our impression is that, you get to work now, starting now for 2 weeks, every day you dedicate 3 hours to coding this until it's done in 2 weeks. But no, typically they cram everything together and then it's done. So those people have a lot of flexibility, right? So they can take their dogs out for a walk. They don't care because I can code that thing tonight after I finish watching my TV series, right? But the operational guy cannot. The website is down. The whole world sees that your website is down. So you have to respond immediately. The other group of people are those out in the field. They have some flexibility, but then their time and what work demands of them is locked to customers. They have to meet with customers. They have to pitch. They have to get on Zoom, talk to customers. So it can get hectic. But they do have a bit more flexibility. And the executives is the last group I have here, and those are the ones that I feel like on the outside, when you look at executives' schedule, you admire them, right? I want to be like that, fly in on my first class into the city, get on stage, give a talk, and then off I go, send everybody off to their desk to do work, and then off I go to play golf, right? And that's the impression. But after knowing some of them, especially the larger companies, I realized that they have shit work-life balance as well. Typically, work consumes them, especially at big MNC, like multinational companies. A lot of the execs have assistants or business manager that plan out their day. And so it's almost like the president of the United States, right? It's like, okay, 9 o'clock, you have a meeting with this team. Up 10 o'clock, we need to get you to the airport because at 12 o'clock in San Francisco, you need to go shake hands with so-and-so. And then by 2 o'clock, you need to be back home. And I'll get you home for dinner by 7:30. And their days are being laid out for them. And I don't think they get to take their dogs out for a walk at 2 p.m. It's impossible. So they have a rough time. So the execs. Any questions so far? Am I saying something that is fairly aligned to like your world?
Yes, everything is very clear.
Yeah, awesome. All right, so next section that I feel is another group of factors that impact work-life balance that you should consider for someone who's going into the tech industry is the type of company that you're joining. So I arbitrarily broke companies by size and what they each, I think, would expect from you as a software engineer or as an intern, whatever. So at the bottom, obviously, we have a startup, small companies. They are maybe no more than 20. Sometimes they're just 2, could be 20. By the time they are 20 in size, they are probably what they call roughly a Series A. They would have raised maybe $1 million to $5 million, but they are very, very hungry. very, very eager to ship products, to get out there, to find product market fit, to sell their product. So those tend to be more demanding of your time. So if you are the one who doesn't like to be told, hey, I need this done by tonight, where is this thing? A startup is not for you, right? An engineer a developer who thinks that they're going to go into a startup and have a walk in the park. That's not going to happen, because the urgency to build something and ship it to the world is there more than a bigger size company. And also because there's a money component to it. They are strapped for cash. A startup usually will be raising money and then burning that money. And if they're not careful with how they spend their money hiring people, then they may sink. They may run out of money. So if I have a startup, I'd rather hire someone who can work a little harder than average, because I get my bang for the buck and I get my product out there quicker. So the bar is high in terms of that. So, but when the company gets a bit larger, I'll start to call them small to medium size. Some people say SMB, but small, medium business. But I think I like to call them small businesses, a bit beyond startup. They may start to get more funding, and now they're in the hundreds, anywhere up to like 100, maybe 250, 100. And they are, the founders of those companies are still very involved typically in day-to-day stuff. They may join you for meetings and reviews. And again, the demand is there for you to put in a lot of your work and energy into it. It can be unfair, because as a founder, it's your baby. You look at code, you look at a product, you talk to customers round the clock, over weekends, over holidays. That's you, because this is your project. I work for you. So the demand that sometimes a founder can put the undue demands on people they hire and expect them to perform and give their heart and soul into the startup like they do. And that can get tricky. That's why they're quite careful in hiring the right people when the company is very, very small. By the way, I've joined all of these sizes of companies. The one that I'm in is, I would say, mid-size. And this is where a company starts to have HR, have a legal team. Prior to that, when they're small, they subcontract out payroll. But now when they pass a certain size, they start to have departments to handle that, and things become more rigid, and there's more process involved. And more process involved means your job becomes more and more and more defined, and that could be good, because then they cannot come to you as a software engineer to go, hey, can you design a logo for me? We really need it by next week. Because it's not your job. Because your company is matured to a point where you hire designers for design work. You hire me as a coder for coding work, right? So duties become more defined as the company gets bigger and bigger and bigger. And then all the way up to, say, a large enterprise or MNC, where the roles are even more defined, and that you start to have even more flexibility in your time. So each of these level will impact how, and if you can, move your balance, right? The litmus test of whether I can walk my dog at 2 o'clock in the afternoon for each of these companies, very, very, very different. But the good news is my dogs don't have to be walked. I just open the door to the backyard and just do their business there. Do you walk your dog?
Nope.
No? Yeah, just open the door and
yeah.
Yeah, that's what I do. Awesome. So we sort of come to the end of the main segment about work-life balance. I thought it deserved a episode because it caught me by surprise. It definitely caught me by surprise. I was when I finished graduate school, I went straight into a humongous company, Microsoft. And the pace of a graduate student and the pace of a low-ranking employee at a huge company is very different. I had a lot of freedom as a graduate student. I can take 4 years to complete my PhD or 7 years. And it's up to me how motivated I am. But in a big company, I'm on the hook. I have my job defined for me. I have goals, I have KPIs, I have to hit. So I go shifting gears initially. Took me a while. Took me about maybe half a year, and then I got it. And once I got it, then I was at the same time I was building a family. Right, I have Ethan, and then I have my daughter Malin, and dynamics started changing. Right, caring for them when they're younger, bringing them out to do fun stuff, and at one point during my career, I had a lot of travel, and some of the events that I have to attend out of state were weekend events. So that was tough because I have to tell them I cannot go pick pumpkin with you guys because I'm gonna be in San Francisco for the weekend because they have a hackathon going on, blah blah blah. So that was tough. And then obviously I told you my bitter story about Madeline and Excel. So there were things like that. These days I'm more smart about, I make sure works get done, that no one is waiting for me for my work. Get them done, and then I can schedule my stuff. So I like to conclude all of my episodes with a special segment that I call 3 facts, 2 myths, and 1 opinion. So what I'll do is I'll share with you, firstly, 3 facts, things that I feel are quite true, kind of hard to argue, that people should know about as they consider a technical role, in the industry. So here will be the 3 facts. Let me see. Yep, there you go. So 3 facts. Fact number 1, work-life balance in the tech industry is nothing compared to other professions. So just in case someone has been in the tech profession for a long time and they feel like, oh my God, my life is terrible, there are 10,000 other professions where people have no choice but to be at work. Think about people who work in the factory. Think about cops. Think about, the person who serves you your milkshake at McDonald's. They have no choice. They cannot work from home. They cannot go walk their dog in the middle of their shift, at 2:00 in the afternoon. So, but work-life balance for tech is incredibly special to them. Partly because of the after post-pandemic, we have the return to office and all that junk. It has become a special topic to people who are entering into the tech world. Should I say people make a big deal out of it? Number 2, I think I mentioned this before, smaller, hungrier companies will expect more from you because they grow or they die, right? So if you cannot stand that kind of stress, to put on multiple hats and ship things under tight deadlines, startups is not for you. It's rough. So go join a bigger company where they're a little bit more chill. But startup, you're like running, and one won't be surprised if you're frequently clocking Saturdays and Sundays because they have to ship the product. That's number 2. Number 3, as a fact, I believe, and I think you mentioned this as well, recent layoff trends have caused a lot of us to tip our balance to work-life balance, more towards work, right? Because we are afraid of the expenses, or we need to show visibility that we are really working. Don't lay me off because I'm useful, So I think that really upset the possibility of you striking a balance that you love. It'll probably be something that you do not love. Right. So those are the 3 facts. Now the next one will be 2 myths, things that people think is true, like me going into the workforce with some conception about what work is like and being all wrong. The first misconception, the first myth is that it is the company's responsibility to strike that balance for you and provide the measures and the privilege and the mechanisms and the programs to make sure that you have good balance in your life. It's none of their business. They won't do it. There are some videos out there that show people at Facebook, they show up at work, and if you surf TikTok, you'll find a day in the life of a engineer at Google. And then this person will go, I show up at 10, I go get my latte, and then I go for my massage. And oh, it's 11 o'clock, I'm gonna have a 2-hour lunch. You know, it's really obnoxious. So the company, it's not the company's responsibility to make sure that you have a good work-life balance. All they care about is making money, being profitable, not going bankrupt. That is their primary goal, not you, because they can replace you.
Yeah.
So that was number one. The next misconception is that the working harder, we talked about this, working harder secures your job. I think that's a misconception. Working harder only burns you out. Instead, working smart is a better strategy, put it that way. Someone gave me this advice: work smart, not hard, and I have no idea what the hell that means. And now I do. It has a lot to do with what matters to your boss, what matters to your company. They have goals, so you meet those goals. They don't care if you spend hour to hour to hour looking at this code or designing this logo or coding blah blah blah. They care that your results are there, that you produce results. And when the company looks at you, they care that, oh, this guy is producing results. That's all they care about. They don't care how much hours you put into it, right? And so down to the one opinion. Let me fire up one opinion. This is an opinion, and it's also like a theory. Sorry about the noise in the background. This, years and years ago, my late grandmother, you may really enjoy this because I know you love to cook, I love to cook. My late grandmother said one thing that my mom told me that I never forget till this day. And it's strange enough, it's about curry, about chicken curry and rice. My culture as Singaporean, we love to have rice and curry. And my grandma's wisdom is that when you have rice and curry, they cannot both be hot. One has to be lukewarm. So either you have lukewarm rice with really hot curry, temperature hot, or you have a lukewarm curry with really hot rice. And that combination is the best. And I found that to be quite interesting and quite true to me. Go test out. Both cannot be hot. Both cannot be lukewarm. Then it tastes disgusting or it's difficult to enjoy it. So I feel like a strange analogy to work-life balance. There's two things in this equation: things that you can control and things that you cannot control. Things that are structured and things that are dynamic. They cannot both be rigid. If they're both rigid and structured, one side is going to complain. One side is going to fall apart, right? Your relationship, your family, or your work, and you're going to fail and get fired. Both sides cannot be dynamic. You cannot fly by the seat of your pants and go like, oh, yeah, we'll go to Hawaii next week. And, oh, work needs to, and there's no structure, there's no predictability in life and work. I think a lot of people live that life. It's kind of scary. Yeah. So I think, this is my wisdom here, my opinion, that a good balance may start with something to do with choosing one side to be the structured one. Maybe it's life, right? Every Saturday morning, I would call my mom. Every last Friday of the month, we always go for a movie, and you lock that, and then everything else dance around that. Or you lock up work to go, guys, do not disturb me on Wednesdays and Thursdays because I have customer calls. Fridays and weekends we can go up. And so I think it's a balance of that, locking down what is controllable, and then letting the rest be dynamic around what you center. So that's my little theory on my opinion. So
I think that's a great strategy.
Yeah, hopefully. I try to practice it, but sometimes I forget. I try my best to bring my son out to games and stuff like that. Although a big part of me is oh, I really want to finish this code. Sometimes I would remind myself, chicken curry.
Now I learned chicken curry. That's a
try it. See if I'm right. See if I'm right. You
Yeah.
keep a lukewarm curry and hot rice. Anyway, Cynthia,
Okay.
we have come to the end. Thank you so much for joining me and having a conversation with me.
Thank you for having me. I really enjoyed it.
Awesome. I hope to do another show soon.
Thank you.
All right. Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye.